in a galaxy far, far away.
So, and this is something that I missed. Two of Cameron's Patreon subscribers found it and sent it to him. So I'm doing the report on YouTube. Kathleen Kennedy's long goodbye has started in earnest. She threw out the first pitch at Dodger Stadium on Star Wars night, surrounded by Darth Vader and the Emperor, who weirdly enough was wearing the costume that was worn for the rise of Palpatine. Not cool. I don't appreciate at all, but there you go. What's going on here? Well, they did a short interview. Dodger Blue did a short interview with her, and she basically talked about her past work. And the only thing she talked about presently is The Mandalorian and Grogu are starting to film soon. Okay, so hopefully we'll get some turnabout with Gina Carano soon, so she can be in the movie. I am very much interested in the fact that she didn't talk about anything else but Mandalorian and Grogu. And when she did talk about past movies, the highlights of her career at Lucasfilm were meeting Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher. I would think that the crowd that she ran in, she would have known Carrie at least. Because Carrie was a Hollywood social butterfly. She knew everybody, literally everybody. And so I'm not sure if I believe her. I don't know if I believe her in meeting Mark Hamill the first time either, unless she was hiding under a brick. The reason why is because Mark, this is a group that would probably kind of run into each other from time to time. They would be in the same place at the same parties, maybe. I don't know. It just didn't make any sense. And then she talked about, having known Harrison Ford from Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Indy movies. She talked about how proud she was of everything she did at Lucasfilm. I know you're all nauseated. She talked about how proud she is of her career in general. As a producer, when she had to work for someone who's actually creative, like Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, Clint Eastwood, Martin Scorsese, Robert Zemeckis, she did fine because she had to answer to somebody. All right, they were the bosses. She had to answer to them. On her own, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Look at. She has to say she's proud of her career, and she probably is, but this is what denial looks like. Okay, this is the long goodbye. It'll be full of bullshit accolades. Fans will complain. You'll hear plenty of black pills saying she's not leaving, when it's obvious to everybody else but them that she's leaving, and that's it. This is the long goodbye. And I have a feeling, I've said this before, but there will be an announcement soon that her contract is not being renewed, and that her time at Lucasfilm is over. Okay. Contrast the quiet and silence and all this shit with Kevin Feige and D'Esposito saying out in public that they've made mistakes. Okay. This is a difference. And the difference also is, are D'Esposito and Feige trying to save their position at Marvel? They might be. I mean, that is probably what they're doing. Because that's the only explanation, okay? really is the only explanation. But she talks about the highlights of her career in the film industry, especially her time at Lucasfilm. Her time at Lucasfilm, like it's already in the past. Like it's already done. It's already over. You start thinking about that and you're like, okay, I get it now. You know? I mean, that's the thing here. Okay, guys? This is what's really happening. All right? And she only mentioned Mandalorian and Grogu as filming soon, which I'm pretty sure she would be up to date on. No mention of any Rey movie, and weirdly enough, she didn't mention The Acolyte. But let's talk about that.
In keeping with the trusty adage, starve a cold, disgust a fever. Dad, when are you going to stop blighting the environment with this atrocity? My God, can't you see that it wants to die? Let it go. Stop. Not one more crooked word. Your tongue could open a wine bottle.
Never had an agent. It's not like she worships the devil.
Well, she doesn't have to. He worships her.
That one just drew a pentagram on the floor and chanted, "I summon thee," 3 times.
Get out.
So, Kennedy doesn't mention either the Rey movie, because it's not happening, and The Acolyte, because it's radioactive. The Acolyte is something that was made under shady funding, under shady business dealings, and may actually have the involvement of intelligence agencies, and no one at Lucasfilm wants anything to do with it. They're putting it out there, and they'll probably leave it out there until such as a time that they can cancel it. Okay. It's one of those things where you're going, why in hell would any intelligence agency imagine any of them? And no, I'm not going to bring up the vaunted CIA, which isn't vaunted, or Mossad, because they're busy right now, and they have been busy. But there are other intelligence agencies. It's definitely not the NKVD, the Russians. Think about who it could be. And it's basically what we consider a psyop. Okay, you look at it, it's poorly made. It was made on the cheap. Some people feel like Kennedy actually embezzled money from moved money from other shows for it. If she had been embezzling money, then she would have been fired, but used money that was supposed to go to everything from Boba Fett to Ahsoka to make this dumpster fire and Andor. I have a feeling she took most of the money from Andor because Andor just looked like shit, dog shit. Okay. It really did just look like dog shit. And for what? Why would you make something like this? And all I can say is, for a fandom that doesn't exist, I mean, there are people like that, like this right here, that would want it, but it's for a fandom that really doesn't exist because they don't go to the movies. They want representation, but they don't go to the movies. They don't buy Disney Plus. They don't get a subscription. It's a bizarre psyop, and Kennedy didn't say a word about it because there's something about this show, like I've said, that may not have something to do with people that like to blow cars up, okay, of people that have crossed them, all right? And she didn't mention Andor. Okay, in fact, there has not been a mention of Andor season 2 since I can't remember when the last time I heard about it. And here's the other time she was seen in public at the Writers Guild Awards with Tony Gilroy, who looks like a pedophile. He looks like someone that should have been cast as one in Sound of Freedom, you know. You're kind of looking at him going, I don't know about this. This is really kind of goofy. But she didn't mention that either. All right. And I know the show wrapped. I know they're done filming. You know, are they going to release it? When? Of course, Skeleton Crew hasn't been talked about either, which is weird. And I heard they actually brought Ben Bird in to do some things with it and stop motion and everything. You know, that's going to be actually a pretty good show, I think. We might actually get a version of Han Solo's childhood, but it not being Han Solo, if you know what I mean. This sounds like to me like Jude Law is playing somebody who is a lot like the bad guy, one of the bad guys in the A.C. Crispin books. But, I mean, we don't know. We haven't been able to see it yet. But this was Kathy Kennedy's Long Goodbye, all right? And you watch the interview, you see what she doesn't mention. And what was interesting to note that Screen Rant had a heart attack about the vaunted Trashalite not being mentioned. Okay. Look, I think probably the biggest mistake she made in her career, besides taking over Lucasfilm, was not taking the Long Goodbye last year at this time. And then having Bob Iger just thrash her into oblivion on the night Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny dropped at Cannes, and then Steven Spielberg literally canceling her in front of all of Hollywood. Okay. She should have taken the Long Goodbye then. She should have taken what Conrad and others like to call the Viking funeral and run with it. Okay. She would have gone with all of her, you know, accolades intact, and, you know, there would be a breath of fresh air at Lucasfilm. As of now, she's not quite gone yet. She's still listed as president of Lucasfilm. She's called president of Lucasfilm. And there are outstanding issues. Again, the Gina Carano lawsuit, which Kennedy richly deserves, I might add, for the unprofessional, mean girl, teenage brat way she traded Gina to the Filson lawsuit. How careless can somebody be? All right? How careless can she be? Kathleen Kennedy. All right? Then she's careless. Okay? That's what's going on here. Is she's been incompetent the entire time she ran Lucasfilm. She didn't care enough about what the stories were to say no to JJ. She didn't have that come to Jesus talk with Harrison Ford. Okay, which I would have. Like, no, you're not dying in episode 2 or 1. I'm not sure that I want that to happen. This is Star Wars, and I'm not going to give you the kids won't play with the dead Han Solo figure, because that was George's way out of that. I'm just going to say it doesn't fit the story we're telling. It doesn't fit the story we're telling. The character's going to have a lot more to do, and we need him there to the very end. And really, as we get more and more into it, we won't need you to be there more and more. But the idea of this atrocity being committed, the Force Awakens, I can't allow that. I can't. She never should have let that happen, okay? Now, I know George is the one that signed everybody there to their contracts, and I think Harrison felt like, if I'm getting an Indiana Jones movie, Mark really should have Star Wars to himself. Really, Mark could have Star Wars to himself, even if Harrison is there, okay? I think that's, the problem is the ensemble cast wasn't, I think, meant to be an ensemble cast, and it ended up being an ensemble cast. But when you look at the way Kennedy behaved, She let those atrocities in TFA happen. She let Mark Hamill be treated like shit by Ryan Johnson. She allowed other actors to be treated like shit. I mean, the guy that played Admiral Akbar. She wasn't concerned for Carrie Fisher. And apparently, Kennedy was the one that came up with Leia Poppins. Not to mention the atrocity that is Solo, a Soy War story. Jonathan Kasdan's sexual adventures. Pando Lando. And casting awful Aaron Yuck as Han Solo. I mean, when people say they like it, they don't care about the movie. They don't care about the casting. They never cared about the character. Okay? And they're rationalizing it because they want something to be good. But Solo failed because Kennedy wasn't interested enough to say, what the fuck are you doing? Like I would have. I would have been on the set. But of course, I also wouldn't have hired the two directors that they hired at first to do it. I would have hired a bit more of a seasoned guy. Like, you know, I would ask Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott, do a great job at this. You know, I would have, look, Kurt Russell basically directed Tombstone. Why not have him do it? Play a character and have him do it. Okay? Anyway, this moment at Dodger Stadium is the beginning of the long goodbye, her retrospective on her career, reminiscing, and the fact that she did not mention anything but the Mandalorian movie. No Rey movie, because there isn't one. Acolyte, because she didn't mention because yuck. Andor, because why? Okay, these are all questions that you need to ask yourselves. And the Screen Rant article, take note that they were upset that she didn't mention the Acolyte. And I'm going to put the Dodger Blue video on here too, in the description box too. And Kamran's Patreon, please subscribe to that. It's $5 a month. It's well worth it. So, the long goodbye, the Viking funeral is happening, guys. This is Steph signing out. I'll see you around the galaxy.